Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. I'm going to talk very, very briefly before we get into these student works. If I have not met you, I am Catherine Hicks. I am one of the scholarly engagement librarians here at Tulane. And I am very excited to talk about and share this incredible student work. It's part of our larger initiative to start showing more student creative work through the libraries as part of showcasing creative work as scholarship instead of just books and articles. So to that end, I'm going to hand it over to Jon Chambers, who just started drinking, I'm so sorry, to introduce his project and his students.
Hey, y'all. Thanks for coming out. So we're waiting for one of my students. Hopefully he shows up. But Taylor and Caroline are right over here. And this is, they're presenting their capstone games. Break Free and New World is their games over here. And so this involved 2 semesters of prototyping, play testing, sketching, a lot of play testing, making their own assets, finding their own assets, and a lot of iteration. So we got 2 semesters under our belt, and I'm really excited about the games, the diversity of games that we have this semester. And yeah, I don't want to talk too much about the games. They'll explain what they're working on, but we kind of had a theme. I feel like the 3 of us, hopefully Ollie's coming soon. We're sort of around the almost kind of paranoia of AI and interfaces and digital interfaces and bodies in the environment. So that's kind of the theme, the thread that kind of ties this all together, all their games together. So yeah, thank you again for coming. I'm really excited. This is the 2nd cohort of games capstone projects for digital media practices. So yeah, super exciting. So I'm going to introduce Caroline. You want to come up real quick, talk about your game? Awesome.
Hi, I'm Caroline, and my game New World is about kind of the relationship of technology and AI with the environment and the body. And so it kind of takes you through this timeline of an imagined dystopian future. And yeah, I hope you like it.
My name's Taylor. My game is called Break Free, and it is kind of like an abstract game that imagines like a future in which we as like people who use technology have our use limited by like elitist power. And yeah, the player kind of navigates through like a futuristic interface that's really like simplified and abstracted, and then like kind of has to figure out either how to break free or how to like kind of become a victim of like algorithmic control.
Questions?
What was your favorite part about creating a video game?
I would say my favorite part about making this project was probably just like learning new skills and like testing things out with each other, and yeah, and also like working across like, or like we were all working within the same platform of Unity, so like troubleshooting stuff, and yeah, like there's a lot of road bumps that come with it, and it was nice to have like people to work through it all with.
I think my favorite part was getting to make my own 3D models and animations in Blender. That was a fun challenge. Yeah, getting to work through all the different challenges was fun.
Can you talk about the process of making your own 3D models?
Yeah. So starting this project, I used one of my drawings from a couple years ago and used Meshy AI to turn it into a 3D model. And that made kind of this weird monster human-like form, which kind of started the whole idea for this project for me. Yeah.
I have a question, which is what's next for your games? Do you plan on polishing and releasing them, or are they purely a passion project?
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be polishing mine up and publishing it on Itch, which is just this website where you can post your games for free.
Yeah, same.
And in a couple weeks, there will be a DMP capstone screening at the Britannia Theater. We'll be showing trailers for these games, and then they will be officially released on itch. So this is kind of also a play testing, like stress test right now. So if you're playing these games and you notice any glitches, any bugs, please let us know. You can contact me and then I can forward it. My name's Jon Chambers. And so we're kind of stress testing it over the next couple weeks so we can refine them, figure out the bugs, which we found a couple this week that we fixed already, and then releasing them in a couple weeks. And then there'll be a trailer and everything for them. They're going to be here for about a week. So they'll be up here. You can come on up throughout the next week and play them at your own leisure time. Yeah. Cool.
I'm going to pass it over to Nick Perrin to introduce his students and the amazing furniture behind me.
Okay, so I'm Nick Perrin. This is work from the 9th semester of prototyping in the design program at the Tulane School of Architecture and Built Environment. And I think, if we consider design to be the way that we shape the environment to accord with our desired way of living, prototyping is really the way that we test the artifacts that we might include in that world. So it's how ideas gain resolution and fidelity. I tend to view design as inseparable from making, and that's one of the ways that we introduce this class and this body of work to the students. It's their first time typically in the wood shop. It's their first time using a drill in some cases. And I think, the results kind of speak for themselves. I'm always really proud of the diversity of ideas that come out of it and the different styles. And we try and shape these ideas through, careful consideration of composition and assembly. These are always works that are prototyping both form and assembly. So we really think about the mechanics behind how these things are built. These are all made from a single sheet of plywood. They're all using the resources on campus. Millhouse in particular, our CNC router, 3-axis router. And the students are forbidden from using any adhesive. So they have to come up with real mechanical solutions for how all of these work. They've been asked to combine 2 functions into a single piece, which is sort of a shortcut into authorship of a novel form. But it's also a way for them to process archetypes that they have in their heads. And I think you see that in all these. So that's the class. Thanks. And I guess we have 3 students here today. We have Lily Schiff, Alex O'Leary, and Kendra Johnson. I think they'll all want to introduce their pieces. That's great. So I'm going to pass it to Lily first. Thanks.
Okay, so my piece is called the Nestle, and it's a portmanteau between a side table, shelving, and seating. So with these 2 pieces interconnected through a cutout on the side, the shelving is extended for those bottom 3 shelves, and then you can actually remove this piece and it becomes its own little stool, and then if you flip it, so it actually connects through the top, through this little connector piece that I have in between, and then it becomes a little extended shelf. So 3 uses for this one. Okay.
Okay, hi everyone, I'm Alex O'Leary, and this is what I call the Cantilever bench, and it blends seating and this kind of interesting shelving. And I would say that this piece is very much aligned with the word prototyping, because a lot of, what I was fighting with the entire time with this piece is the boundaries of the material, as well as, the weight of it and how it actually sat versus like on a 3D software versus when you actually do it in wood or even chipboard. So a lot of this was iterating and figuring out if it can really hold itself up and a person up. So definitely just a long process of kind of putting together these individual pieces with tension joints. So it's entirely held together through each other piece. Like there's not really, obviously no adhesive or any like nails or anything. It's just all straight wood. So yeah.
So mine's called The Artist Bench. I was really focused on Annie Alberts, which is like a textile artist, and she's one of the first women to basically kind of make the craft of weaving into more of an art form rather than something like a craft or a hobby women do. So I really focused on that, and I transformed one of her textiles into like the top of the bench, and it dictated a lot of parts of it. And then I did the string to reflect her weaving, and kind of like the way I made it was the way she also makes her own weavings. It took a long time, so I wouldn't recommend doing it, but it was really fun, and I liked how it turned out. And then there's different parts to it where you can like keep drawings, and you can like leave little notes for people who also want to experience the bench, who are also artists. So thank you.
Any questions?
So, to all three of you, I think it's really interesting the sort of limit of what one piece of plywood can do. Would you prefer to do it in more than one piece of plywood? Like, is this the scale that like, or did it limit you in any way? And sort of what are your perspectives on working within that limit?
I think mine would be much taller. It's kind of like a baby bench right now. But I think if I had more wood, it gets really heavy too. And I think it would have been like almost too much, and it would be a very like heavy just object, and it kind of limits your creativity in a way. If you have too much of an item, then you're like, I want to do it all. So I think I like the one sheet of plywood thing.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think when I pictured this piece, it was like, I want it to be as tall as me. That was actually the dream from the beginning, was like, I want to be just as tall and like look it in the eyes. And I realized maybe that's not possible, but I think it would have been too heavy anyways. So I think that the limitation of material was honestly like, it showed me how many pieces I could have on each base. Like, I think it was helpful to have it, honestly.
I would also agree. I would say for my piece, one of my main driving factors when coming up with what I wanted to make was that I wanted it to be small and compact and easy to move. And I would say even with one sheet of plywood, it's already too heavy, so I can barely move it. So I would say I think the one sheet is good, and it is a good way to flex our creative muscles, and having some direction is really useful for a project that has not many limits.
I have a question. Do y'all think you'll work in wood again? Was this a good experience, or are you one and done, I'm done with wood forever?
I thought it was fun, but I'm not very I definitely like doing the digital aspects more, but putting it together was very satisfying. And I'll say it was really exciting to see it all come to fruition instead of just not normally, but a lot of the times we're just creating on a screen. So it was really exciting to put it together, but I don't know if I want to do that process that often.
Yeah. I think if I maybe would have done this before like my other studios, which had a lot of like Rhino and 3D software, I would have been a lot more conscious of how this would have actually existed in a space. So I think I don't know if I'll ever do wood. I mean, actually, sorry, capstone reveal. I am doing a little bit of wood in there. So I am using the wood shop and laser cutting and all that good stuff. So I think it was really helpful regardless of this specific project or getting to know the wood shop. I think I will be using those skills again.
I would say I did like the wood, but I use wood a lot differently, so it was kind of interesting. I use it as a form to paint on. I paint a lot on wood, so it was kind of cool to make something out of it instead of make something on top of it. So I don't know if I would make another piece of furniture, but I'm definitely I enjoy using wood in my art, and I want to use the CNC machine again, so I really did enjoy that, and that was really cool. And so I think it would be fun to add to my other art interests.
Thank you so much to all of our students and all of you for being here. Please sit on the furniture. I've been asked a number of times if you can sit on the furniture. Yes, you can sit on the furniture. Play the video games, eat some food, talk to the student artists some more. And thank you. Enjoy yourselves. Thanks.